Welcome to the historic Craigavon House, the former home of Sir James Craig, the first Prime Minister of Northern Ireland, and the former Ulster Volunteer Force Hospital that looked after the veterans of the First World War and subsequent wars.
Craigavon House was built in 1870 by accomplished Irish architect Thomas Jackson for wealthy businessman James Craig Sr. James Craig was a director of Dunville and Company, a company that blended pure pot still whisky as well as importing tea to Belfast. During this time, Belfast was a great industrial city, famous for its shipyards, cotton and linen spinning mills, as well as weaving factories. However, less well recognised is the contribution of the whisky industry. Belfast was in fact one of the biggest whisky producers in the world, and one of the biggest distilleries was Dunville, producing over 2.5 million gallons per year. When first built, Craigavon House consisted solely of a two-storey square-shaped dwelling, with the adjoining glazed loggia and Neapolitan billiards room being added to the south in the 1880s. When converted into a hospital in 1915, the conversion included the construction of a single-storey Nightingale ward to the south side of the house. The complex also had a clock tower and a walled garden to the south-east. Craigavon House is a listed building, with Category B+ obtained in 1986. The house has an amazing view looking down over Belfast Lough. Within the house there are a number of impressive features, including an ornate timber double return staircase, original ornate plasterwork to the ceiling roses, arches and cornices with marble Corinthian-style columns supporting the archway to the staircase hall. All original timber door cases and timber panel doors remain, and the original fireplaces are all securely boarded up. The house therefore retains its 19th century character and prestige, and the architecture in itself is of a significant interest. When James Craig Sr. passed away in 1900, Craigavon House was passed to his son, also called James. James was also an important figure of his time. James Craig became one of Ulster's most prominent unionist figures, and later became the first Prime Minister of Northern Ireland in 1921. He is therefore a figure of significant political and historical interest, and Craigavon House is not only where he was born and resided for 43 years, but also where a number of key historical and politically significant events took place that have shaped Northern Ireland's history. In 1910, the prospect of the Third Home Rule Bill for Ireland unsettled those opposed to the likelihood of a Dublin government, particularly the Ulster Unionists. Their leaders became Sir Edward Carson and the then Captain James Craig. During the Home Rule crisis, Craigavon House was effectively utilised as the headquarters of the anti-Home Rule movement, and the terms of the Ulster Solemn League and Covenant were made public and read for the first time from the steps of Craigavon House on the 19th of September 1912. The Unionist Cabinet held their meetings in the billiard room, and it was in this part of the house that the first provisional government met. This room still has the original hand-painted stained glass windows depicting images of Shakespeare, Michelangelo, Titian and Mozart. Craigavon has 3 separate rooms with alcoves containing curved glass windows. The ceiling is yellow from the nicotine in the cigarettes smoked by the soldiers when this was the day room for the Ulster Volunteer Force Hospital. This door was used by the patients to enter in and out of the Nightingale wards. Craigavon House played its part in another historical event. When it was rumoured that the authorities planned to arrest the leaders of the Ulster Volunteer Force, Craig ordered that the UVF headquarters be moved from the Old Town Hall in Belfast to Craigavon House, where a special force guarded the UVF leaders 24 hours a day. This special force was made up of volunteers from Belfast battalions, North, South, East and West, and was commanded by Captain Percy Crozier, commander of the West Belfast Battalion of the UVF. Craigavon House was an ideal location, being well situated with good communications if required with the naval vessels in the loch, and with Carrickfergus on the other side of the loch in view. The building was also the nerve centre of the Sacred Arms Committee, which organised the gun running at Larne on the 24th and 25th of April 1914. Tunnels which were built underneath Craigavon House and are believed to be large and extend from the grounds as far as Ashfield Boys High School. So it was at Craigavon House that the plans to smuggle in guns for the UVF was formulated by Fred Crawford and Wilfred Spender. The gun-running operation was a well-planned success, but as it turned out these guns were never required, as war was declared and the Ulster Division was formed. The lawns in front of Craigavon House were the location of many anti-Home Rule rallies, and it was here in 1913 that the Ulster Volunteer Force was formed, a militia that would go on to fight in the First World War as part of the British Army. In 1915, Craig offered Craigavon House to the Board of Management of the UVF hospitals to be used for the treatment of the sick and wounded returning soldiers from the First World War. A hospital wing was added to the house containing 2 wards and was officially opened on the 21st of July 1917 by Lady Craigavon. Craigavon House would henceforth be known as the UVF Hospital, one of 3 such hospitals which opened in the province. The hospital was used mainly for the treatment of the sick and wounded soldiers, in particular those suffering from neurasthenia, a nervous complaint, or cell shock. After the war, it would continue to be used for the care and treatment of ex-servicemen. Following the end of the First World War, Craigavon House was sold to Down County Council. A new wing was added in 1969 called the Somme Wing and was maintained as a hospital for war veterans until the 1990s. In 1991, the Somme Wing was extended and upgraded to become in 1992 the Somme Nursing Home, and on the 16th of September 1992 the patients moved into the new extension across from Craigavon House. In 1990, the Somme Association purchased Craigavon House and has continued to try to have it restored to its former glory.
We hope you have enjoyed your virtual tour of Craigavon House, and we look forward to welcoming you back at some time in the future.